Maybe so. Anyway, we are down and ready for round number 7. We have Steven Dykman versus Kat Miller Granger. Rakdos Sacrifice versus Abzan Greasefang. A match that I imagine could go either way. And my reason for saying that is because I don't really know who's favored here. So I'm just defaulting to that.
Now, Rakdos, that we do see Rakdos Sacrifice as the deck title for Steven Dykman, but there's actually a little bit of different stuff going on in Dykman's list specifically, and maybe we'll get to see that. But Dykman is sporting copies of Voldaren Thrillseeker in his deck this weekend, which is a card alongside Dreadhorde Butcher. It's kind of like the new Splitter Twin. I don't know if people have seen that, but Dykman's been playing a lot on the Twitch stream that he streams a lot, and posting up some good results. So we'll have to see if that comes up. But that is kind of the spice that we got going on.
All right, for Kat Miller Granger, they got the start they want. Informant into Parhelion in the graveyard. So Dykman's got to be crossing his fingers that Greasefang doesn't come up right here, because that's a lot to deal with if that's the case. But 2 mana? 2 mana means not so bad.
It looks like we're not starting off, or we don't have the Greasefang, or potentially don't have the third land for the Greasefang. Now, we talked about, we were trying to think of who was favored in this matchup. Dykman only has 3 copies of Fatal Push in the main deck. Now, we did mention Voldaren Thrillseeker, which, for those of you who don't know, it's a card. It's like a backup card. It's a 1/1 backup 2, and it has an ability of colorless sacrifice. This creature deals its damage equal to its power to any target. So if you put the counters on the Thrillseeker and have a mana up, that could potentially be another way to stop a Greasefang before it's able to go to combat.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like no third land here for Kat, which means that's what they were looking for. Maybe does have the Greasefang rolled up, just didn't find that land.
Yeah, not only no third land initially, but then I think after the Witherbloom, still not a land.
Right, that's pretty rare to miss off
that's
that.
tough. Yeah. Okay, so Steven has to assume that Kat kept his hand for legitimate reasons. So the Greasefang is probably in hand. So has to take that into account as he decides how he wants to play this out.
Right, we saw Kat, have the Traverse on turn 1. So that was the one land that they had, and then played the Swamp on 2. So it looks like Kat may have kept a 1-lander here with Traverse and Witherbloom trying to, you would think that Traverse is essentially, ETB tap land and for all intents and purposes, but, really hoping to hit the land off the Witherbloom. We'll see which 3-drop. Yeah. Steven does have a lot of 3s here that we could have access to.
Yeah, and that's, with the Raffine's Informant too, that's a completely reasonable hand for Kat to keep. Just got unfortunate here. And there is a Thrillseeker, like you said, and this Bloodtithe Harvester is coming across for a good chunk of life.
Yeah, relatively new card, so I'm not sure if we can get that up on screen for our viewers. But yeah, very, very potent, specifically when combined with Dreadhorde Butcher, because the Dreadhorde Butcher has an ability that says when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target, and the Thrillseeker gives the ability to, sacrifice the creature that you back up to deal the damage, so you're essentially doubling up on that damage. So if you sacrifice a 4/4 Dreadhorde Butcher, it deals 8 damage, so on and so forth. And there's a land that I'd be very surprised if Kat did not have a Greasefang here.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like we're going towards a Liliana.
Okay. That's Dykman has a few cards in hand. Liliana's Sacrifice is not going to have too much of an impact right here. You're right.
Yeah, so I guess maybe Kat kept. Now I'm trying to wonder. I'm wondering what the contents of the rest of their hand would look like. So, it doesn't have a Greasefang. I would imagine if you had something like a salvage that you would just try to dig towards that Greasefang. So, yeah, I wonder, maybe Kat has a bunch of Chariots and Sky Sovereigns, stuff like that.
Conceivably, it wasn't a 7-card hand either. We didn't see the pregame actions.
Good point.
Okay, so here is Liliana going up. Chariot gets pitched alongside Hive with the Eye Tyrant. And Steven continuing to look at pressing damage here.
Yeah, really wants to try and find a way to remove the Raffine's Informant from the battlefield if Steven wants to go towards that Liliana. But with Kat at 11, I'm not even sure that you might even just ignore the Liliana at this point.
As long as the Cauldron Familiar is still on the board, what does Steven even care about having a sacrifice here? So An attack
Potentially.
an attack with Bloodtithe Harvester at Cat's life total is certainly going to put them to the test on, giving up their only creature or losing effectively half their life.
Yeah, you could even potentially see maybe if I guess if Dykman has like something, say land and second Thrillseeker, you could go Thrillseeker counters on Familiar, throw the Familiar at the Informant, and then send both at face for 6, put Cat to 5. You could even see, I mean, I would imagine if we had Claim the Firstborn, that would have already been cast by now, so probably doesn't have something like that. We're just going to go right to combat.
All right, everything in. Steven willing to give up a creature here. Granted, it's not a huge sacrifice that he's looking at. I suppose if Cat were to block Cauldron Familiar, Steven could choose to sacrifice the Thrillseeker post-combat to finish off the Informant if he thought that was worth a while, which would be questionable in the face of Liliana, so maybe not.
Yeah. Maybe Dykman has more creatures to follow up with to protect Liliana. Now, I saw a Fatal Push in Dykman's hand. Very interesting that we didn't want to just go and Fatal Push their Informant and just kind of send everything, because that's what, 5, 6, 7, put Cat to 4, and then you have the Thrillseeker to put them to 3. So I guess really, really wants to, hold. It looks like we're holding up the Fatal Push for a potential Greasefang, which also does make sense.
Yeah, if that's the expectation, then I wonder if it makes sense to block the Thrillseeker, because that would turn that off potentially. Instead, it looks like Cat chump blocks the Bloodtithe Harvester and falls to 9. And here is, I think that's another Thrillseeker coming down for Steven.
It is, yep. Ooh, and we're also going to put the counters on itself. So now we could see that line that I talked about earlier of even if Cat does find a Greasefang, the Thrillseeker has 3 power, so you can just point the Thrillseeker at the Greasefang to kill it before you go to combat.
Yeah, this is looking tough. A sacrifice presumably coming in here. Maybe Cat can stabilize with land and then a hardcast Chariot
to buy some time.
Yeah, I mean that's a big maybe anyway.
Yeah, because as the board sits, even if Cat down ticks here, Dykman's just going to sacrifice that Cauldron Familiar, and then is representing way more than lethal on the crackback. So Cat's going to need a good turn. I'm looking at, I think I saw a Thoughtseize, a Chariot, and I think a Mana Confluence. Okay, so we can't play a Chariot here. There's a little bit of time.
Very little. Yeah, but I mean, a turn is a turn. If it's a turn to draw a Greasefang, that's good. All right, here's the force. All right, and also now that Liliana, I mean, still on 2, if the Chariot can survive the turn, then Liliana can pick off another creature. That might be somewhat optimistic, but when you're behind
go ahead.
When you're behind on the board, you have to be optimistic. Like, things have to work out to some degree, or else you're just dead anyway. Push on tokens probably enough. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Worth noting that there's a Hive in play too. So if Stephen were to find a land, okay, well that should just do it, because then you can go sack. Yeah, you send everything. Cat blocks there, and then that's way more than enough, right? 4, put Cat to 4, and then yeah, that's lethal. I was gonna say the Hive could have taken out the Parhelion, but not necessary.
Okay, so game 1 to Steven Dykman. We'll bring up the deck list, as there are a couple, or there are new cards, or at least unusual cards in both lists. We'll start with Steven Dykman's Rakdos Sacrifice. We saw the Thrillseekers, and there was another non-stock card you're talking about, the Dreadhorde Butcher.
Yep.
To go alongside it. So I know you mentioned how these combo together, but let's kind of run through that again while we're here.
So Dreadhorde Butcher is a card. It's 2 mana for a 1/1 haste. Whenever it hits your opponent, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power at any target. So when combined specifically with Voldaren Thrillseeker, if let's say you have the ideal start, turn 2 Butcher, turn 3 Thrillseeker, hit them with the Butcher, you put 2 counters on it. Now it's a 5/5. You can then use the Butcher to, like, if you throw the Butcher at your opponent, it deals them 5, and then it also deals them 5 off of the Butcher's trigger. So it essentially just doubles up that trigger. That's really the synergy here with Thrillseeker. As far as this particular matchup is concerned, I believe Dykman's going to want to go towards the Rending Volleys. Those are slam dunks. I think that's a Ray of Enfeeblement. Yeah, it is. So we're going to go towards the 3 1-mana removal spells, and then potentially Kolaghan's Command as well. Not the best at breaking up a Greasefang because it is expensive and it puts the Parhelion back in the graveyard, so you can just go for the Greasefang again next turn. But it is nice in those more fair games that you can blow up a Chariot and a token with it.
All right, and if we have Cat Miller Granger's Greasefang deck list here. So now this, maybe I haven't been keeping up too closely with developments in the deck, but Fleeting Spirit is a card that I have not played against in the Greasefang deck list before. Another turn 2 discard outlet, I suppose.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. We had Cat on a previous feature match round, and I was very certain that the card that they cast was the white creature that learns when it enters the battlefield, and that wasn't the case. So I've actually never seen Fleeting Spirit before. But like you mentioned, it's a nice discard outlet. It's a creature with flying, helps you set up the turn 3 Parhelion, and also a Thrawn at the sideboard. I don't think I've seen that before.
Yeah, I mean that's a nice one. There are certainly blue-white control decks running around. We have seen a number of them, and Thrawn. I mean that's a home run against. What are they going to do? But I guess it's sweeper or nothing. Which I guess is true of a lot of things, but still, that's a nice addition. I don't expect we'll see it here.
No, sadly,
sadly
no threads here.
We are going to be looking to kind of just play it straight here. Maybe there's a few, additions to be made here, but for the most part, the plan isn't changing for Cat.
Yeah, you could talk me into like Knight of Autumn to kill Witch's Oven, Abrupt Decay for the same thing, maybe Unlicensed Source to help deal with the Cauldron Familiars, and then potentially Fatal Push to help kill Mayhem Devil and or Voldaren Thrillseeker. But yeah, like you said, just small upgrades, really just kind of mostly keeping it the same. Cat has just gonna play in their lane, and that's gonna be what we're gonna see.
All right, so let's see if the players are ready. We're not on time shift anymore. We're back to live magic, so I can't just roll a match when I want. We have to wait for the players. But all right, here we go. Cat Miller Granger trying to end Stephen Dykman's run of top-8ing our events.
Wait, so Joe, you're telling me that you can't fast forward time for us? I'm very surprised to hear this.
I like to keep some things, secret. I don't want to give away all the tricks. But
we don't want the CIA coming after us.
That's right. Okay, so Cat Miller Granger looking at the opening 7, a couple of vehicles in there. I think I saw Greasefang, so land and discard outlet. Obviously, one of those is missing.
It's like Cats go to 6, and I saw a Fable in Dykman's hand, so I have to imagine it's a keep. But we'll have to see what the rest of it looks like. Yeah, Fable's one hell of a card, huh?
Yeah, I guess. Boy, this is gonna sound, well, it is stupid, but I walked into the Pro Tour a couple weeks ago thinking like, yeah, Fable's fine, but this is manageable. Yeah, that turned out to be wrong. It's like, do they need to ban anything in this format? No, of course not. Well, I don't know if my answer is the same now as it was then.
About that. But standard ban announcement coming up towards the end of this month, so we'll have to see how that shakes up. And speaking of that, I don't know why I said speaking of that, but we'll have to see if Cat decides to keep their 6. It looks like they are. So we are on to game 2 here.
All right, turn 1 Vessel. That will work. Finding this finds lands or creatures. Right, and that's Grizzly Salvage. Does this find anything else? Is it just permanents? I haven't played this card in a very long time.
I want to say, I'm not going to look, but I'm going to guess. I think it's artifacts, creature, land, enchantment, planeswalker. I think it specifies types, but that would be my guess. Now I'm going to go look and probably see about how wrong I was.
All right. In the meantime, Dykeman thought seizes away the Greasefang. Cat's remaining cards are land, Fatal Push, and a Chariot. So Vessel could do work here, and Cat could be off to the races next turn, but we'll see. And Steven knows what he's up against.
Joe, I'm pleased to inform you that I still got it, and I got it right. So,
all right, it was never in doubt. I had faith. Okay,
so we see. So the Dreadhorde Butcher is kind of interesting here. Cat's really in a weird bind where they really want to crack the Vessel, but they also really want to Fatal Push this thing because the longer you let it go, you could probably take one hit and use your mana efficiently.
Yeah, I agree with this choice because if Cat hits jackpot here, then you live with a turn 2, Dreadhorde, and if not, then okay, Fatal Push is online next turn, and there's not anything else to do with the mana yet at this point.
There's a chariot in the graveyard. Speaking of jackpot, we do have a draw step here. Let's see if we can find the little rat boy. Does not look like we found it, though.
All right, but Fatal Push and then a Hardcast Chariot. I mean, that's something. Cat looking able to contest the board over the next couple turns.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, maybe this is a dumb question, but who wins in like a heads-up fair fight? Fable by itself or Chariot by itself? It's kind of close, isn't it?
I hope not, but part of the reason Fable's so strong it's rarely by itself, because if your hand stinks, Fable's just gonna clean it up for you, and then you're like, oh, cool, I'll get rid of this Chariot. Good luck.
Yeah. Now Dykman with the Fatal Push pace up does not want to go for, say, a Thrillseeker here yet. So we're just going to see an attack. We'll see a Fatal Push, and I would imagine Dykman's likely going to follow up with that Fable, unless we don't have a third land. And it looks like we do. So yeah, I would have to... Or we're going to go maybe discard spell plus. Oh, that's huge. Taking that Chariot there. So it looks like discard spell plus 2-drop. That's a good turn for Dykman.
Yeah, Bloodtithe Harvester. All right. And yeah, Cat. All right. The time is now. Find something.
For a Greasefang.
No.
Can't stay away. I don't think we have can't stay away in this deck list. No, can't stay away. So we're looking for Greasefang, Chariot, but yeah, unfortunately for Cat, no draw here. And this has got to be the Fable turn, I would imagine, unless we found something better to do. But yeah, we're going to go for Fable.
Okay, so Dykman will add another creature onto the board with the Fable token, and now there's this looming clock of the reflection. I mean, a few turns away, but if Cat is just playing lands, I mean, building up to Hardcast Parhelia is not really a plan. So,
well, Sky Sovereign could be something to play towards. That's I think that at this point in the game, that's probably Cat's best out at this point. I could maybe see Greasefang for Chariot being maybe good enough, although I don't know if it can test the current board. But yeah, we're probably going to need something like a Sky Sovereign at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be a good start. Because at this point, there's no... I mean, especially after this rummaging here, Steven might just be able to remove Greasefang. There's no guarantee it's actually going to get to do its thing. Steven playing... Yeah, you're missing a couple land drops here, so... Maybe he's holding lands to pitch to Fable, or maybe he's just short on mana here. But I'm not sure he really needs much more.
Yeah, because you have the Fable token to generate treasures anyways, so you can kind of get some more mana there. I really wants I would assume looking for like a Thrillseeker here, just to kind of up the pressure a little bit, because Thrillseeker is 7 power, which puts Cat on a 2-turn clock. So that would be, I think, the most ideal situation for Dykman. Because he wants to give Cat as few draw steps as possible.
All right, so Hive goes away, as well as the draw 2. 5 across. Cat will fall to 9.
Second Fable, maybe. Ooh, Devil. That's gonna be tough for Cat to beat. Yep. All right.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Well, all right, Steven Dykman. Pick up round number 7, advance to 6-1. Whether you can draw or have to play last round, we will find out. Alongside all you wonderful viewers are with us on this Saturday afternoon. We'll find out in about half an hour. In the meantime, we should have another match. So we are ready to go. We have Brandon Nelson against Connor Lane. Sorry,
Sounds
Connor, if that's not correct. Rakdos Midrange versus Mono Blue Spirits. Okay.
I believe we got note from coverage thing. This was game 2. Not 100% certain who won game 1, but maybe we can see based on who goes first or something like that.
All right.
But yeah, Rakdos versus Mono Blue. I think the general consensus is that Rakdos is a pretty big favorite of this matchup, and from what I've seen, I would have to imagine that I agree with that sentiment. Although, depending, there are some sideboard cards that Connor could have. So I'm gonna take a wild guess and say Brandon won game one, but we'll have to see.
All right. Okay, so let's. So are we? Do we know that we're actually watching game two here, or is this game one? Okay, this is game two, and Connor is up a game. All right.
Okay. I was wrong.
So Connor broke serve there. Takes up game one with the Spirits deck. Brandon Nelson looking to recover here. These players at 5-1 looking for a win to give them a chance at top 8. But even if you don't top 8 the event, still prize money and points to accumulate for all the players in the house today. And we're in we, not Devin and I, but Nerd Rage is in Minneapolis this weekend. Same city.
We're in Minneapolis in spirit, all right.
Yeah, that's right. Does that mean we're siding with Connor?
Maybe.
Anyway, Brandon is perusing the 7 here with 1 having to go back. And we're underway with a Mutavault. Okay. So no Bloodtithe Harvester on turn 2.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, the people, the common consent, or I guess the debate is whether or not you play Mutavault or Castle Locthwain. Neither of those are very good on turn 1, so I guess it doesn't matter that much there.
And an attack with Mutavault, Connor has to be thrilled. I mean, that's...
Oh, yeah.
If I'm saying... I mean, I imagine most players that want to win, competitive players, not opposed to being handed advantages. And my opponent mulliganing and then attacking with a Mutavault on turn 2, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm not going to, I wouldn't make any gestures, but I'd pump the fist in my head a little bit,
Exactly. Okay, so here is Rattle Chains and Graveyard Trespasser on the board. And here is a Curious Obsession that's going to hit.
Very good spot to jam Curious Obsession while Brandon is tapped out. And, there could be something like a Geistlight Snare to protect it, maybe even potentially 2 protection spells, something like, land plus holdout, slip out the back, and or Geistlight Snare. Got to be a little bit careful with Snare, though, because Brandon could deploy land 4 plus Fatal Push. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Just jamming a Shieldred.
Okay, well, that is going to... Well, okay, never mind. It's not going to make it on the board. That would have at least somewhat negated the advantage from the extra draws. But instead, Connor is just cruising here.
Yeah, fantastic spot for Connor. Just exactly how you want the game to go. Like you mentioned, the attack with Mutavault on turn 2. And just going to get more cards. Going to keep the cards flowing with this Rattle Chains plus Curious Obsession. Really just wants to try and find maybe more Rattle Chains to protect. Maybe a Lord here or there to kind of amp the clock up. But doesn't have to do a ton from here.
All right, across. Connor gave some thought to the pre-combat there. So maybe there is a Lord that considered playing. Instead, Brandon's going to get to flip Graveyard Trespasser into Graveyard Glutton, I think is the backside.
Yeah, so as far as the clock is concerned, this by itself, the flipping of Trespasser doesn't necessarily change the clock because it would have been 5-5-5 versus 6-6, which, what I mean? It's still a 3-turn clock either way. So it's, as long as Connor can kind of keep up, stop Brandon from doing the other things, then the clock's not going to change too much.
Mm-hmm. All right, here is the Lord. Supreme Phantom's going to come down, potentially can block Mutavault. The Graveyard Glutton is, I was going to say could have taken a Shieldred, but based on the positioning, the angling of Shieldred and Geistlight Snare, they may actually both be, it might have been exiled last turn already.
Yeah, I think after the Shieldred went, the Shieldred got cast pre-combat, and then I think Brandon did target the Shieldred with the Trespasser last turn. And I think what Connor was thinking last turn was to whether or not to main phase the Supreme Phantom to not flip the Trespasser. But the nice thing about casting it in combat is you get Brandon to commit more mana into the Mutavault. Obviously, if the Supreme Phantom is face up, you're not going to commit the mana to the attack. And we also see here a slip out the back to counter a Bone Crusher. That is a backbreaking turn.
Yeah, that was rough. Now Brandon facing significantly more incoming damage. yeah, this Graveyard Glutton is not going to win the race anymore. Does Connor leave back a blocker? No. Well, maybe.
Thinking about it. So this is currently an attack for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about leaving back a blocker is you don't put Brandon on a 2-turn clock. So I think it makes sense to attack with all.
Yeah, all right. And Connor's got a pretty full hand, so if he doesn't have flash blockers, he's going to have counters, and he only needs probably one or the other.
Right, and even with the single, there's this one creature in the graveyard currently, even with the single point of life gain from the Trespasser that puts Brandon to 8, that's still 8 damage. 9 actually now with the Curious Obsession,
So Connor valuing the mana next turn, throws down Curious Obsession post-combat this turn on top of the Sailor. Not a play you see very often, but speaks to Connor having some experience.
Right. So we're not going to go for the Mutavault. Brandon just going to go right to combat, and that is going to be half of Connor's life total with the trigger from the Trespasser. So Brandon 8, Connor on 5. And have to see what Brandon has for removal and what Connor may or may not have for protection.
Okay.
The Ritual of Soot.
Yeah, I mean, Ritual of Soot will very much equalize this game here if Connor doesn't have a counter for it.
With Connor thinking this long, I'm gonna assume that there's no counter spell, but we'll have to see.
Is this
that's kind of a tough one?
Yeah. Is this a spot? Is this just draw off Spectral Sailor?
Potentially, that could be the 4 mana held up. Could also have maybe a slip out the back, and we're thinking about which one to save.
Yeah, it's gonna be a draw.
They are gonna draw.
Wow. So I'm gonna say that given that Connor didn't have a counter, they may be deploying the Curious Obsession post-combat was a little hasty there, because having an extra mana there, I mean, potentially if a Geistlight Snare was drawn, it could have tagged the Ritual. But we'll see what Connor's follow-up here is, facing down this Mutavault at 5 life.
Right. So I think the decision to use it, I'm gonna assume that Connor maybe didn't have a land left over and wanted to be able to go like, maybe 1 drop plus hold up activation next turn. But yeah, really punishing spot. And looks like Brandon does have some good follow-ups here, Shieldred and a Harvester.
Yeah, this is tough. And yeah, I mean, just because Connor got blown out doesn't mean he messed up necessarily. It could have been, he made the right decisions, and that's just the way things fell. But now, Brandon's at 8?
Rattle Chains.
Okay.
That's 4 power.
Yeah.
Brandon is tapped out. So 4 power here. A Lord gets us to 6 power. Which is still not quite enough. Land's not going to do it.
That's a
lot
of mana. Whoa! Blue Sun, grab Shieldred.
Wow. I will take that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, that Blue Sun Twilight is pretty strong when it works. Yeah, and Connor even had the mana for 7, but obviously stealing getting a copy of Shieldred is not going to do you too much good here. And Brandon, well, what you got? An answer is required.
Yes. I think Brandon should be at 3, right? Because they took 3 from the Rattle Chains and 2 from the Shieldred. And I believe we didn't get Connor's life total updated with the Shieldred trigger. So I think both players should be at 3 right now.
Okay.
Again, time shifted match, so we won't be able to change it, but just to keep that in mind. I believe, assuming that all triggers were remembered, I think they're both at 3.
All right. Brandon Nelson trying to figure out what just happened. And I mean, Shieldred, that's a pretty scary card.
I know. Wrath your board, next turn play 2 creatures, and then now you're in this position.
Yeah, I mean, contemplating figuring that the land there, maybe contemplating the blood, which if you're right, the light tolls would put him down to 1. And there's a land in hand, so I don't think Brandon has a choice.
Yeah, I think Brandon is thinking about sacking Harvester first.
Sure.
That's the
Yeah.
decision here. So it's like, because once you sack the blood, the Harvester
Yeah.
doesn't do anything. Looks like we're not going to do that. So yeah, Brandon goes to 1, and that is it.
Okay. Blue Suns Twilight and Connor Lane take down Brandon Nelson and advances to 6-1. So congratulations to him. The spirits hold steady there with the help of Shieldred the Apocalypse, I guess. And
Yeah.
and
Pretty nice when your mono blue spirits deck just gets the splash shielded anyways. So
yeah. That was exciting stuff. That was looking a little grim there for Connor. But taking your opponent's best creature and sliding into play on your side, that turns things around in a hurry, and Brandon Nelson is dispatched. Okay, well, that brings us through 7 rounds. This round, winners, we had Steven Dykman and we have Connor Lane, looking strong to potentially join Cliff Boyardee in the top 8. Come on back for round number 8, and we'll see what other 5 players might be joining them. This is NRG Gaming, 10K Pioneer. We'll be right back.